Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF 44 coming into another video. All right, I did another fantastic Bible study with my family. Usually try to check in with you guys after the Bible study these days and just tell you what the message was. And really, the message was pretty much the same message I've been telling you guys, which is more or less we want to keep from being carnal minds, which means minds of the world. You know, you don't want to be people that don't run things past the Lord. If you're a believer, you want to definitely make sure that you're not a false prophet, you know, and not self-exalting and things of that nature. You know, a lot of times I get on here and I want to talk about various things that come to my mind and things like that. But what I hope to do, what I try to do with most of my videos, is try to give the glory to God and to let you guys know that the very essence of my videos is not necessarily about exalting myself, even though by way of what I'm doing, it's just me talking to you. And all of the different things that I'm promoting and things of that nature is definitely going to self-promote. It's definitely going to put me up in a space where it's about myself. But at the end of the day, my mission, as I continue to grow stronger, is to try to discipline myself to be less selfish and more so looking to exalt God in whatever it is that I do. And the decisions that I make, I want to start training myself much more to turn to God and to ask him to help me make those decisions, because a lot of what I struggle with is my decision making. A lot of what I struggle with is my perception and how I perceive how I'm going to enjoy certain things and protecting myself in ways that really don't work from stuff that really probably should be done. Solutions and, you know, preventative measures and things of that nature. A lot of that I will equate in my head as something I should stay away from to keep the stress out, only to find myself pushing things to the last minute and then finding that stress falling upon my head 10 times stronger when I'm 10 times weaker because of it. I think that's kind of what the message was today, and more or less ways of putting it. We were becoming, connected to an understanding that you want to make sure that you're not listening to false prophets. You're not becoming one yourself. You're not more or less pulling yourself away from what would otherwise be letting God get the glory and letting God help you make the decisions that you ultimately decide to make. So that's really what we've been talking about on this channel as early as this morning, and the various different things that we've been talking about lately. So that's what the message was. It's just, that's what I really enjoy about being a part of this Bible study with my family, is a lot of times we will find that the same message that I'm ultimately talking about, or things that have come about and what it is I'm paying attention to, will ultimately be what they talk about, or kind of a close type of thing, and it's funny because I look at my devotional today, the devotional book that my grandmother bought for me many years ago, that I try to read every day, and that was also the message in it. That's what was so very interesting in regards to that. It's September 17th, and I can read this to you. It says, "You will not find peace by engaging in excessive planning, attempting to control what will happen to you in the future. That is a commonly practiced form of unbelief." Isn't that what we're saying? When your mind spins with multiple plans, peace may seem to be within your grasp, yet it always eludes you. Just when you think you have prepared for all possibilities, something unexpected pops up and throws things into confusion. And then it goes on to say, "I did not design the human mind to figure out the future," speaking in first person in regards to God's perspective. "That is beyond your capability. I crafted your mind for continual communication with me. Bring me all your needs, your hopes and fears. Commit everything into my care. Turn from the path of planning to the path of peace." And that's literally what we've been talking about, not only in the Bible study, but on this channel. That zeroes in on the whole purpose of the various different therapy sessions I've been making basically for the last 3 days. There's all these things that I have to do, and what I perceive I don't want to do or do want to do, sometimes it doesn't work in my favor at all. I can't trust it at all. That's what I've been telling you. I don't trust my own mind, because since it's so awry with all the different ways that it tries to escape from stress, based on the fact that I do have these anxieties and things of that nature, it becomes difficult for me to really know that I'm ever really helping myself at all. Only to find that it's when I pray that the Holy Spirit will allow me to be able to more or less be either patient and letting things come to me, or be proactive in having the strength to find those solutions. And as I find myself going closer to God and allowing him to incorporate himself more so into my planning, I find that a lot of times he helps me override some of those anxieties, or he'll help me know when it's okay to relax as opposed to when I'll choose to relax. And most importantly, when I do, I won't coerce myself into more sin. You know, that was more of what we talked about as well tonight with the Bible study tonight. We were saying, you know, my uncle said something along the lines of, you can't get clean if you know, as a metaphor of a pig, there's no way for you to get clean if you're going to stay in the sty. In order to get clean, you got to get out of that mud. And so that's kind of what we're talking about as well. How, you know, sin can sometimes come from not going toward the Lord. Sin can sometimes come when you don't get what your mind tells you should receive, and then you find resentment within that. So you just say, forget it, let me just get my pound of flesh out of things, because you know what, bad's coming my way, so I'm just going to do bad in response to it. That was something that I often did a lot of times. And you know, allowing myself to stay in lustful mindsets, it would often coerce me into spaces where I would be insecure dealing with the women that I like, because I would ultimately have that as a primary mentality, not only as it pertains to what I was thinking, but also what it was that I would predict they were thinking, and therefore it would put me in a position to not necessarily have the best energy, when otherwise those were things I was manifesting on my own. But that was a carnal mindset. If I would go to God, he would let me know that that's not the way for me to go. He would also help me stay away from those things, so I can otherwise keep myself in a position to keep my mind straight. So that Lord can help you do a lot of things that you don't even think he would otherwise do, just from turning to him first and then allowing him to guide you. And so that's really what these messages been. And I received that message because I've also received the consequences of not doing things correctly so many times that's coerced me into the space I'm in right now. I know now the blueprint for what works for me, even though I always have to deal with my anxieties, because that's just a natural thing for this brain of mine, based on certain things that have happened that I could not do anything about. But what I also can do is try to train the mind to turn to God, knowing that I have these anxieties, knowing that I don't necessarily look for solutions in everything that I should be doing proactively. Turn to God and have him help me operate properly, or operate around what it is that I ultimately am, so he can provide me solutions that I would embrace. You know what I mean? Not things that I would otherwise say, nah, that's not going to work for me, without actually knowing what comes with what. So as I told you guys, you know, just try to pray before you make certain decisions, especially if you find yourself to be someone who has anxiety or depression, or if you suffer from any type of mental illness, because it's that mind that the enemy will ultimately try to coerce you into, will coerce it into being confused. He works in the spirit of confusion, and that's what I've been engaging in, not quite knowing when to relax, not quite knowing how to go toward what needs to be done, and then guilt tripping myself even further from not doing it, or telling myself I can do certain things that I otherwise truly wouldn't believe I can do, because prayer was never into the equation. Not in choosing to do those things or not doing those things, not in providing myself any hope at all, saying I want to leave the earth and then coercing that into conversations that other people hear. None of that had the right intentions in regards to putting prayer first and then allowing it to move me. So, you know, even this morning, I can tell you the truth. When I couldn't watch a football game, I found myself cussing and going back into my carnal mindset, not even really speaking like I normally do on this camera. And, you know, that's one side of things that I want people not necessarily to see, because, you know, I try to pride myself on being somebody who speaks of the Lord and all of that. But at the end of the day, I can tell you the truth. When I get upset, I go right back to my old ways. Or when I'm watching some content, I might find myself thinking and feeling things that don't necessarily align with what it is I try to say on here. It's not because I'm a hypocrite. It's because it's the process of still training my mind to go to God. And I'm still, 10% loading out of 100? You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. This is just the beginning of the process of trying to live my life correctly, because I've been doing things so wrong for so long. And so I'm happy to tell people that I'm still working on that. I'm also telling people that I have my motivation for doing it properly. You know what I mean? I know why I should. And that why is ultimately going to keep me in a position to try to incorporate these new practices of letting God in. And hopefully he can start to coerce me away from those things, those sins, further and further away from those mindsets that ultimately he doesn't have much to do with. You know, he's not very much a part of. You know, you can let God in more and more, but it's just like anything else. If you're not used to it, you got to work that practice in. And so, though I could talk of the Lord and speak of the Lord, throughout the course of getting closer to God, he's been allowing these new concepts into my heart and into my mind. And now it's time to work them into habit and into practice. And as he does, I have the belief that he will provide me the right consequences and pull me out of circumstances such as these. Maybe I'll even be able to overcome some of these anxieties, like I did a few mornings ago when I was hit with a very bad dream, but still managed to overcome that, go to God immediately out of that dream, and from there to have one of the best days I had in a while. So that's what it's about. Right now, what I'm dealing with is, this hotel contract is over with on Thursday. Don't have nowhere to go. Don't really have the money necessarily to pay for another place, but I do have some leads that came from overcoming that anxiety that morning, running into somebody who had the paperwork with a bunch of things on there to call, and receiving that blessing from the Lord. So maybe my solution is in that stack of paperwork that I otherwise wouldn't have had if I wouldn't have woke up out of that horrible dream, went to God, and he gave me the confidence to go out and have the day that I had. I would have stayed in this hotel room out of sheer fear and developed even more anxiety from there. So it's not about looking back at some of the mistakes that I made and harboring on those, because the enemy lies in those places. It's about learning how to incorporate God into your mindset so that he can help you forgive yourself for what you didn't do right, incorporate him into your situation more so, trust what it is that he's telling you, and then listen to that Holy Spirit by habit. So that's really what it's about, man. I'm not looking backwards. I did make some very recent mistakes that I'm ultimately not proud of, but the Lord is helping me not only not look at myself the same way, but to also know that he's not looking at me in regards to those mistakes. We are looking forward. We're moving past those mistakes, and we're incorporating the Lord into new decisions that would ultimately course me into a space where I not only will find myself happy and comfortable, but more mature, and then from there closer to him and whatever else would be open from within those doors. So that's really what the message is, man. It's the same message, but it's just another way of putting it. Let God in. Try to help you by incorporating him into your decision making prior to, and then thank him afterward. And when you feel comfortable, let him in then as well, especially then, because a lot of times that's when the enemy's trying to work. When you feel relaxed, when you don't feel like it's necessary to go toward the Lord, when you don't feel like you really need anything at all, there's always someone to pray for, there's always something to be thankful for, and there's always another source of confusion that the enemy has coming right around the corner. So you would be best to keep the Lord involved even when things are at their best. Being thankful and grateful and gracious is an energy that I often find myself thriving in. But when I'm pessimistic and insecure, or whatever comes with that, or fearful and adhering to these anxieties, I ultimately find myself with the worst consequences. So that's the discipline, man. It's not just about believing in God. It's about working that habit into your equation. There are levels that come from becoming believers, and a lot of times they're different for different people. For me, it's about getting that habit going and letting God in consistently before decisions are being made, and when those anxieties are trying to come in, telling me whatever it is it may be saying. So that's really what it is. I feel like I'm growing spiritually, and because of it, I'm able to deal with the things that I'm dealing with in a much more positive way than I had maybe just 24 hours ago. And I'm looking forward, not backwards. So that's what I got to say. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.